What is a common myth that has been debunked but too many people still believe? You must wait 24 hours before reporting a missing person. Some questions. 1. 24 hours from when? The time you realize they were missing? The time you estimate they went missing? The time of the initial report to police? 2. Who is the legal timekeeper? If this is a law, it must have a designated timekeeper for official records. City police? County sheriff? Do I hire a private attorney to file a timekeeping motion in court? 3. If the most likely time to find a missing person is the first 24 hours, why would you wait 24 hours? 4. If the person dies or is severely injured because the county state refused to initiate a search, doesn't that put some liability on their office? It seems like that would have been tested in court by now. There's no law governing how long you have to wait before notifying the police of a missing person. It's nonsense. File a report as soon as you suspect the person is missing or in danger. Do you know how many wellness checks officers go on in a day? Call it Tin Man. When I hear this I always say, call the police when you think everything is fine. And seems like people don't understand that well over 50% of stuff police do is some boring crap like wellness checks etc. The dogs see in black and white. They do see color, just not as many as we do. They basically just have red-green color blindness. I don't know if this specifically a myth, but the bald eagle's squawk is actually so pathetic most eagle squawks have a hawk stubbed over in movies and such. Yeah, that screechy noise is super iconic of large birds in movies. It's pretty underwhelming to find out that in real life they actually chirp instead of screech. I always like the one about ducks quacks not echoing and scientists don't know why. Like really? Who comes up with that kind of stuff? Quack, dang you. Popping your knuckles is actually harmless and the study that claimed it caused arthritis was heavily flawed. Studies now show that it has nothing to do with causing arthritis. As someone who cracks their knuckles literally every minute of the day I'm relieved lol. That if you get too close to a baby bird, the mother will smell human on the baby and abandon the nest. You probably should still avoid touching baby birds for other reasons like disease or risking injury to the animal though. Since I'm already on the topic of animal myths, another common myth is the daddy long leg is the most venomous spider in the world but it can't bite you because its fangs are too tiny. This myth is wrong on both accounts. They do have venom, but it's essentially harmless to humans, and they can bite you. The pain just typically isn't as severe as something like a brown recluse. Watched a mama Canada goose kill her baby after my brother touched it. That may have been a result of Canada geese just being buttholes, though. Lemmings aren't suicidal. They were filming a Disney nature documentary where the producers herded them off cliffs and the misconception stuck. It's been debunked but you ask someone about lemmings and see what they say. Height dominance in parrots is not a thing. A bird will not want to show dominance over you just because their cage is eye level. Birds just like being high up. The reason you don't want a big bird on your shoulder is because you don't want that big beak near your eyes if it becomes startled. Not sure if it counts as a myth that's been debunked but people who misunderstand average life expectancy. When you hear that the average life expectancy was 40 a couple hundred years ago, it's not that people would only live to 40, but that half the population was dying in infancy and the other half living to 80. Obviously I'm exaggerating these ratios to make a point. In 1900, a third of live births died before the age of 5, which really pulls the average down. That waking a sleepwalker is dangerous for them. They might wake up confused, but they'll be fine unless you scream at them or something. Oh crap, I definitely still thought this one. That your hair and fingernails still grow after you die. It's mainly an optical illusion. Your skin decays and shrinks, causing hair and fingernails to look like they've grown. The War of the Worlds broadcast in 1938. We all know the story. Orson Welles broadcasted War of the Worlds over the Columbia Broadcasting System, CBS. But people only tuned in part way through and heard the radio announcing that machines were landing in the country and were advancing and attacking. People panicked in the streets and thought aliens really were invading. There was hysteria on the streets. People were looting and traffic jams banked up as people tried to escape. But it turns out that isn't really true. It turns out barely anyone actually listened to the broadcast, and the few that were listening knew it was Orson Welles and knew it was just a broadcasting of War of the Worlds. If there was anyone that did tune in and mishear it and panicked, it was nowhere near the hundreds and thousands that have been reported in this myth. That handling a baby bird will make the mother reject it because it smells you on the baby. Most birds don't have a significant sense of smell, so put the knacky baby back in the nest. Now, sometimes mother birds will push a sick or otherwise terminal chick out of the nest. So when people try to put it back, she goes, "Hey, thought I got rid of you," and does it again. But that's not because of you. She just knows something you don't. So take that baby to a rehab rescue and hope for the best. But a lot of the time the little squishy beans just wiggle out of the nest. So feel free to put them back in. No harm done. Oh, also, carrots don't help your eyes' night vision. That was made up by the Brits to mask the fact they had developed radar during the war. Carrots don't help vision in a healthy person, but vitamin A deficiency can cause blindness. Bumblebees shouldn't be able to fly, except they obviously can. I think bumblebees perfectly exemplify the fundamental misunderstanding that lay people have of the scientific process and the difference between a law and a theory. A scientific law is a physical description of what we observe under specific circumstances. A theory, on the other hand, explains why we observe different phenomena when at least one variable isn't controlled for. So it isn't that bumblebees shouldn't be able to fly, it's that they fly as a result of a different set of variables within the mechanisms of flight. I have always suspected some textbook somewhere was talking about aerodynamics, making the point that bumblebees wouldn't be able to fly if they were fixed wing aircraft. Then someone repeated it, leaving out the last part. That glass is a super cooled liquid that is perpetual flowing down. As proof they show medieval window glass that's thicker at the base and thinner on top, explained over the centuries it flowed down. But that is actually all a myth and bogus. I think this is caused because medieval glass making techniques were imperfect, and they usually put the thicker parts down in order to increase stability. That the Coriolis effect has any relevant bearing on how water drains from a sink, a bathtub, or especially a toilet, I was actually taught this by a teacher. The design of toilets direct water in a specific way. The Coriolis effect would never change that, but even in more passive drainage systems, the internal flow of water and geometry of the basin will be much more significant than that of the Coriolis effect. This is true even if water sits still for long periods of time, under very specific scientific conditions, with a flat, perfectly circular pan and a centralized drainage hole. Many days after filling the water, the Coriolis effect can begin to govern the direction of the water as it's emptied. But this is not exactly practical. We do see the effect and weather patterns of course though, so that's something. TLDR. The Simpsons episode in Australia lied to everyone. My mum thinks that because I shave my face I'll grow a beard. Shaving doesn't actually make the hair grow back thicker or darker. It ends up just the same. ETA, I'm a girl with blonde body hair. I use an eyebrow razor for the really short hair all over my face. I've been doing it for a while now, once every couple of weeks, and the one time I let it grow back it looked the same as before I ever touched it. Vaginas get looser the more sexual partners you've had. But somehow, how many times you've had sex with one partner doesn't affect it. LOL. Not turning your airplane mode on, smartphone, interfere jam communications. Do you really think if a smartphone might endanger a whole plane with passengers they would let it fly? That cats kill babies. I've run into this so many times since having kids. And it's not the older grandmas making these statements. I've had 20-year-olds tell me that you can't have cats if you plan to have babies because they'll steal their breath or some other variation. No amount of reasoning or rationale will dissuade them of this belief. They will steal your hair ties. The medical show thing where they use defibrillators when a guy flatlines. That's not true. When a guy flatlines, he's dead. Defibrillators don't restart hearts. That the Emperor Constantine picked the canon of the Bible at the Council of Nicaea. The truth is, not only did Constantine have absolutely nothing to do with the canon of the Bible, neither was the canon even discussed at the Council of Nicaea, let alone decided. I don't know where this myth comes from, but so many people seem to believe it and it shows no sign of dying out. Your blood is not blue. Seriously though, I was told that everyone's blood was blue on the inside when I was younger, and I honestly don't know why my mom thought that. Maybe it's just one of those things that you only believe because your family has been saying it since your grandma's grandpa's grandma's grandma's grandpa or something like that. The myth about you swallowing 8 spiders. It was made up to prove how misinformation can spread so quickly over the internet. You don't get a cold from being outside when it's cold. A guy had an old friend who used to Uber everywhere rather than getting the bus because her hair would still be wet from getting ready, so she thought waiting in the cold for the bus would make her catch a cold. That's not how it works. That typing in your PIN number backwards at an ATM machine will summon the police. Please don't do this and aggravate your attacker. Just give them the $500. Can confirm. I have 2 cards. Pins are, for example, 9877 and 7789. The number of times I forget which card is which and type in the backwards one is like 99/100. I'm not sure this counts as a myth, but it's something that nags at me whenever I see the meme that everyone's skull looks the same. You can take someone's skull and, unless there is severe damage because done, determine their age, sex, race, and I think in some instances even if they used certain controlled substances, though that wasn't something I ever got confirmed in my forensic science class. The vaccine autism link. Debunked decades ago, the sole proponent lost his medical license over it. Yet every anti-vax mom apparently knows someone whose friend's cousin has a child who turned autistic after the measles vaccine, and somehow not a single one has met this alleged autistic child, but the story is of course 100% true and vaccines are terrible. People still believe corsets are harmful. Tight lacing is harmful, but a well-made corset that is laced up correctly is just a supportive garment. Corsets were originally just underwear. It surprises me how many people don't know that. Tryptophan doesn't actually make you sleepy. The reason you always feel tired after a Thanksgiving meal is because your body is spending all its energy digesting your big meal. There's a small but noticeable surge in heart attacks on Thanksgiving and Christmas because people eat huge meals and probably drink a lot, and the amount of energy needed to process all that can strain the body. Planes instantly fall from the sky when the engines fail. I've had to explain many times that the wings keep the plane in the air, not the engines. Sharks eat people. Number. They don't. They attack people and then spit them out most times. Source. I'm a certified shark conservation diver. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes. It's really nice to see all of you who are as informed about these wonderful animals as I am. Save the sharks. My brain stopped processing at certified shark and I wondered how one becomes a certified shark. Leaving a fan on overnight can cause fan death, killing the occupant sleeping in the room. This belief is insanely common in South Korea. That Ted Bundy, in real life, prior to the media whoring of his trial, was some kind of peace slayer who had tons of dating success with various women and got victims by charming them. Windmills make people go crazy. Microwaves and cell phones give you cancer. Video games cause violence. Vaccines cause autism. Fat makes you fat. Windmills make people go crazy. Well, the people who are against them being installed near their homes definitely go crazy. You shouldn't go swimming shortly after eating. There's no reason that should be dangerous. However, swimming after drinking alcohol puts you at a substantially higher risk of drowning. Anything after alcohol makes anything a higher risk of danger, even walking, as you can fall over and hit your head seriously. The whole alpha beta male BS. The researcher who wrote it himself not only said that this cannot be used to interpret human behavior in any way, but he even proved his own findings wrong in a later study, because this behavior only applied to wolves in captivity. So, a constantly stressful situation. Same thing happened with the inventor of the polygraph. He later disowned it as pseudoscience. The guy who observed wolves and concluded that dogs follow a similar alpha pack mentality spent rest of his life trying to undo it, but it already took hold. Thanks Isa Milan who made it so popular. I'm in a puppy group on FB and you wouldn't believe the stupid advice people give in there based on dominance theory and being the alpha dog. Telling people to bite their puppy's back and one lady saying you should put the puppy's entire snout in your mouth a few times a week. I can't believe people actually needed to be told not to bite their dog. Electromagnetic fields cause nausea. A lot of people in Sweden believe this despite research attributing it to the nocebo effect. The McDonald's coffee lawsuit. Lady melted her vagina and only wanted to get enough for bills. They wouldn't even do that. Diet insert name is the best for weight loss. No, calorie deficit is the one responsible for weight loss no matter the diet. Diet insert name may be easiest for weight loss, depending on the person, but you are right that not diet is best for weight loss. People eat 8 spiders in their sleep over a lifetime. Yeah, like something evolved to crawl into someone's mouth just to die. So many people believe this lol. That vaccines cause autism or cancer or any other incurable disease. Granted, some people react to them due to allergies or sensitivities or whatever, but the numbers of that are low. Also, is autism that much worse compared to the bubonic plague, pertussis, or polio? I guess I'd rather be autistic than lose a leg or have my lungs turn to mush, but that's just me. Autistic as crap and had a disease I could have been vaccinated for. Big crap parents. Can confirm, autism is much more tolerable. That the earth is flat. By around 500 BC, most ancient Greeks believed that earth was round, not flat, but they had no idea how big the planet is until about 240 BC, when Eratosthenes devised a clever method of estimating its circumference. He realized that if he knew the distance from Alexandria to Syene, he could easily calculate the circumference of Earth. But in those days it was extremely difficult to determine distance with any accuracy. Some distances between cities were measured by the time it took a camel caravan to travel from one city to the other. But camels have a tendency to wander and to walk at varying speeds. So Eratosthenes hired bematists, professional surveyors trained to walk with equal length steps. They found that Syene lies about 5,000 stadia from Alexandria. Eratosthenes then used this to calculate the circumference of the Earth to be about 250,000 stadia. Modern scholars disagree about the length of the stadium used by Eratosthenes. Values between 500 and about 600 feet have been suggested, putting Eratosthenes' calculated circumference between about 24,000 miles and about 29,000 miles. The Earth is now known to measure about 24,900 miles around the equator, slightly less around the poles. You only use 10% of your brain and would become superhuman if you used 100%. You actually use 100% of your brain. Each section is responsible for controlling different functions of your body. For example, the prefrontal cortex controls thoughts, memory and behavior. The parietal lobe controls language and touch. The occipital lobe controls visual processing and the brain stem controls basic functions such as breathing and maintaining your heart rate. That a woman is supposed to bleed when she loses her virginity. That vaginas become loose the more sexual partner sex a woman has. Does your butthole become looser with each turd it passes? The vagina is a muscle in the same way. Stop it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.